Hey, it's Renee with Reset with Renee. I just got done with my morning routine, jumped off the elliptical, and that's where I get my best inspiration. So, my invitation to you is to check out a blog I just posted this week on the Reset website, or to check out the last post I posted. There was a connection issue there. Post that I posted yesterday about how difficult it was for me when my dad was alive to set boundaries with him in a way that was self-led and embodied. And I give myself a little bit of a pass because he had a lot of challenging issues. And so that's the context. But what I want to share with you today is what I see all the time. It's called interactional effects, and it's the interpersonal dynamic pattern process that happens externally and actually internally between two people, any two people. So it could be between spouses or partners, it could be between a parent and a child, it could be between a boss and an employee. I mean, the combinations of two people are endless. So what I often see happen when I work with people is that people get stuck in their communication. It's not that they're not communicating, but they're not communicating clearly. They get stuck speaking from protective parts of them, or they get stuck speaking from hurt parts of them, instead of like really getting underneath that with what's true and authentic, and oftentimes feels more vulnerable, and it can be fearful. So people will lead from the protective parts or the hurt parts of them, the parts of them that have unmet needs and are carrying wounds. So to clean that up, it's helpful to know that this happens. It's an interactional effect, and you can begin to get more clear about what you're doing. So I once had a therapist give me advice about my dad, who was an active alcoholic. And I'm so distracted. Sorry, guys. There's an AT&T truck outside beeping. Probably my dog will bark here in a minute. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, the therapist's advice that I got was to only pick up my dad's phone calls when I felt ready. And I imagine that they meant that I had enough capacity and resources, embodied boundaries, and I was connected to myself enough, which I wasn't. And so it was really energetically challenging for me, no matter if I picked up the call or not. It was like beforehand, the phone's ringing, I'm like, do I pick up? During the call, all the things were running, protective parts, hurt parts. And then after the call, it was like the aftermath. What do I do with all that energy? And so for me, what protective parts look like, would be like thoughts or feelings or energy. One would be my radar, like assessing the level of his intoxication and what flavor of it was. Was it the happy-go-lucky, cracking jokes, fun dad? Or was it him in really more dark energy where I was more likely to get hurt? And then when that happened, I'd have a part of me that was frozen, basically, like stuck, shocked, feeling betrayed, really had a flavor of like, I don't know what to do here, confusion, overwhelm. How do I even handle this? Like, how is this even happening? One, and how do I even handle this? And then the third protective parts were like fawning and masking and people pleasing and just playing along to get along. Path of least resistance was the safest. And so that kept me safer. It also allowed me to accept the breadcrumbs of connection that I might receive during some of the better phone calls or visits. And then, of course, I had a part of me that judged him, like here was my dad who was honestly butthurt that he didn't hear from us, like me and my brother, as much as he would like. And yet the reality was, this is a man who destroyed his answering machine so no one could leave him a message. He didn't have call waiting. I mean, he was never home. So like he didn't have a cell phone. Hello to Shop Simple Times. Trying to wave. And so I'm glad you're here. And so it was just really challenging to be attacked in that way, criticized in that way, and not to want to react, at least internally, with some judgment of like, try an answering machine, Dad. So those were some of my protective parts that would get triggered. Okay, and he could sense and feel that. And that's what happens when we're not clear. Other people can still oftentimes sense through their interoception that something's not quite right, something's a little bit off. They sense the disconnection, and he did. And then, of course, I had hurt parts just like he did too. But my hurt parts were about, they were really about unmet needs and wounds. So the unmet needs were, I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel connected with, I didn't feel helped, I didn't feel valued, I didn't feel like I could ever get his attention or his support. And then, of course, I carried the wound then of the stuff that he was dishing out, right? So the negative stuff, the dark energy stuff, and it was poisonous, like being verbally attacked, being criticized, being mocked, being projected on. So taking his story, disowning it, but projecting it onto me, and being triangulated with other people. Really uncomfortable stuff. And so I didn't know how to deal with it. I just knew it really hurt, and it was an energetic suck. So that's what interactional effects are. I can speak from my hurt parts. I can speak from my protective parts. I know now what it is to be connected to your self energy and that there are ways that you can navigate these kinds of challenging relationships in ways that don't change the person, but you're able to know that you're okay no matter what. You're able to be empowered versus disempowered, and you know how to lead yourself through that, so that you aren't continually being set up for hurt. So in summary, if you struggle with communication challenges in relationships or interactional effects, or if you were raised by a parent who was alcoholic, had a substance abuse problem, had narcissistic tendencies, I kind of hate using that label, but it describes a whole lot of behaviors quickly, or were emotionally immature. You know, a lot of, I'm Gen X, a lot of our parents didn't have the access to information and education that we have now, and going to therapy or working on your mental health was stigmatized. So they didn't have it. So he had his hurt, he had his own protective parts, he had his own trauma history, which he used alcohol to soothe and to take away the pain. And so that's how trauma is transmitted. And that is why I speak about cycle breaking and generational healing, parts work, and all the things, because the quality of our relationships really first depends upon how we show up for ourselves, how we value ourselves, how we lead ourselves. And when we don't know how to do it, connecting with people who can help you figure that out. Just seeing who else is here and trying not to hang up on this live. So anyway, I hope that was helpful information. Check out the blog, check out the post. I welcome your comments and questions, and I hope to see you here again. Bye for now.